Throughout history, there have been people who have committed some of the most heinous crimes fathomable. For those crimes, they have been convicted and sentenced to death. Welcome to Death Row Executions, where we take a look into the lives of society's worst offenders. And now, your host, Air.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Death Row Executions. Today's story is on Christa Pike, who is the youngest woman to be sentenced to death in the United States during the post-Furman period. She is currently the only woman on Tennessee's death row. Christa Pike was born on March 10, 1976 in West Virginia. Her parents did not remain in a relationship after they had Christa, and her father was absent from her life altogether. Christa's mother, Carissa Hansen, would frequently drink, use drugs, and party. Because of her mother's behavior, she was unable to care for Christa like a mother should, so her maternal grandmother raised her. Christa was a happy child and in a loving home. Things changed when Christa turned 12. Her mother, who was absent in her life, decided that she wanted to step up and be a mother. Within the first week of Christa moving in with her mother, Carissa, she was exposed to drugs and drug users. Her mother had not changed. Carissa introduced a whole new life to Christa that would lead her down a dark path. Christa would spend nights on the street smoking weed, and she started drinking as well. She suffered from a blood clotting disorder, and she also had reconstructive surgery on her forehead when she was 14 years old after getting into a car accident. She eventually decided that school was not the right path for her, and she dropped out of high school in the 9th grade. Soon after dropping out, Christa was busted for theft, arrested, and was sentenced to 30 days in juvie. While locked up, Christa had no access to drugs, and this allowed her to focus and apply herself in positive activities. She earned her GED and ended up joining the Job Corps in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a social education program for low-income youth. She was studying computer programming, but eventually wanted to study to become a nursing technician. Like most young teens, being attracted to the opposite sex and exploring those attractions takes up a lot of time and focus. Her focus was diverted from studying to boys. She ended up meeting a young man by the name of Tadaryl Shipp in the Job Corps. Tadaryl was a year younger than Christa. The two quickly started dating, and they developed an obsession with learning about Satanism and the occult. Christa and Tadaryl began attending occult meetings, and their 18-year-old friend, Shadolla Peterson, was interested in what they were doing, so she began to join the occult meetings as well. Satanism and Tadaryl were two things Christa was obsessed with. She was possessive over her boyfriend and was very jealous as well. One day, during an occult session, Christa made it known to Tadaryl and Shadolla that she was upset her 19-year-old classmate, Colleen, was hitting on her boyfriend. She convinced her boyfriend and friend that Colleen needed to be sacrificed in the name of Satan. No one stopped Christa from her beliefs or tried to calm her down about her ill feelings towards Colleen. Instead, they devised a plan that would bring Christa's idea into fruition. On January 11, 1995, Christa said that she was just feeling mean and had a one-track mind. She asked Colleen to meet her near an abandoned steam plant by the University of Tennessee campus so they could make peace, drink, and smoke weed. Colleen accepted the offer, but Christa, however, had no intentions of squashing anything with Colleen. She was quoted saying, "That little whore has to be taught a lesson." On January 12, 1995, Christa, Tadaryl, and Shadolla signed out of their dorm rooms and made it through the woods to meet up with Colleen. As soon as they spotted Colleen immediately started to apologize for the misunderstanding, but the trio began attacking her. The attack lasted for 30 minutes, and they did a number of horrendous things to Colleen's body before ultimately killing her. After killing her, Christa took a piece of skull as a souvenir and then carved a pentagram in her chest. Christa, Tadaryl, and Shadolla left nude from the waist up Colleen in the woods. With no shame, Christa returned to the Job Corps and started to show off the piece of skull she took. School logs show that all 4 of them checked out, but only 3 checked back in. Rumors were spreading, and within 36 hours, Christa, Tadaryl, and Shadolla were arrested. Police discovered the piece of skull in Christa's jacket pocket, and upon a search of their dorm rooms, they found a satanic Bible. Christa admitted to killing Colleen, but claimed she only wanted to scare her, but it got out of control. An autopsy was conducted on Colleen, and there were a number of defensive wounds on her. The ultimate cause of death was a result of blunt force injuries to the head. While being questioned, Christa accepted responsibility, but refused to name her boyfriend and friend as accomplices. It wasn't until trial when a friend testified that Tadaryl Shipp and Shadolla Peterson were her accomplices. During trial, Not only did prosecutors have a lot of evidence, but they had a confession as well. A student at the Job Corps by the name of Kim Iloilo testified that before the murder, Christa told her that she intended to kill Colleen. The court was also made aware of the fact that after killing Colleen and back at the dorms, Christa told another friend, Stephanie Lee Wilson, that she killed Colleen and saved a piece of her skull. Dr. Eric Engen, a clinical psychologist, examined Christa and said that she was an extremely bright woman for having a 9th grade education and that her IQ was in the 77th percentile. He diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder, but concluded that there were no symptoms of brain damage and she was not insane. On March 22, 1996, Christa was found guilty of murder. On March 30th, she was sentenced to death by method of electrocution for the murder charge and 25 years in prison for the conspiracy charge. Tadaryl received life in prison with the possibility of parole, and Shadolla, who became an informant, only received probation after pleading guilty to being an accessory. Christa was taken to prison and for some time was a model prisoner. On August 24, 2001, however, Christa attacked and attempted to kill fellow inmate Patricia Jones. She was unsuccessful and was charged and convicted of attempted first-degree murder. Despite her crime, she continued on with her appeals of getting her off of death row. In an appeal, it was documented that she was allowed to go outside for recreation with non-death row inmates, but over time, she was segregated in a different unit of the prison and had to go outside alone, restrained, and handcuffed. Even though she claimed to have done good things like trying to teach other inmates how to read, she was cited for creating disturbances and actually lost her prison job. Losing her job also lost her privilege of being able to socialize with other inmates. Her cell was searched twice a day, and Christa admitted that the harsher treatment was the result of prison staff finding prescription medication in the wall of her cell. Christa complained that life was getting harder for her in prison, and all of her personal belongings were taken and/or destroyed. She started receiving help for her mental health and was prescribed lithium. In the appeal, she claimed that the lithium did not allow her to have good sleeping patterns. There were also other complaints in the appeal, like her being moved to a different facility and refusing to go outside because they did not have a lot of equipment. She also complained of only being able to use the phone twice a month. Christa was tired and wanted to remove her petition. She was tired of appeals and doctor's reports, but during the appeal, they were trying to convince her to think it over. They questioned her decision because she still requested for her sentence to be commuted to life in prison, and they wanted her to still meet with mental health experts. Dr. Kenner brought up how Christa experienced a lot of emotional neglect, and he, along with Dr. Engem, suggested that Christa suffered from borderline personality disorder. They mentioned that Christa suffered from substance abuse, and she frequently felt alienated from others and did not have the best interpersonal relationships. They claimed that people with borderline personality disorder are more likely to have poor anger control, and pairing that with them diagnosing her with depressive disorder, PTSD, dissociative identity disorder, and intermittent explosive disorder made it really difficult for Christa on a day-to-day basis. She would also sometimes fantasize about extreme violence. They also claimed that after so many years in solitary, Christa developed OCD. Multiple doctors concluded that with her wanting to withdraw her petition, Christa was not making a voluntary reasoned thought. Christa agreed with most of Dr. Kenner's assessment, but she confirmed that the disorders did not prevent her from understanding her legal options. Her sound reasoning for withdrawing the petition was not because of her complaints of the prison's conditions, but because life in prison was worse than death. She also claimed that her mind would not change no matter how long she was on her new medication, so she did not need more time. She carefully considered her choice to proceed with an execution in under 5 years. She said all of this while crying and was quoted saying, "That's the reason I sit here and cry, not because I don't want this, but because I don't want to hurt them. It's just really what I want, and I want to stay who I am, and I want to die being who I am. I sat in this very courtroom with the jury that found me guilty and sentenced me to death. So if that many people decided that this is what I deserve, and that that's what my punishment should be, then I'm ready for that. I've accepted that. I don't want to live in the penitentiary for the rest of my life, knowing that I'm going to die in there one way or another. Whether I get a life sentence out of this or whether I keep my death sentence, I'm dying a little more each day, and I want to still be me when I go. And the way that people treat me, inmates, guards, or whatever, I don't want them to turn me into somebody cold and mean and cruel that doesn't care about anybody or anything except for living day-to-day life in the pen. It's like 23 pulling off a Band-Aid. I'd rather just go ahead and get it over with now. But I hope that you can feel what I'm saying. If you can't, just really understand it through my words. And I know that Dr. Kenner says that this medication or whatever is going to make me change my mind, but it's not. I've been thinking it through ever since I got this sentence. And even though I've never voiced it, and I haven't just told everybody about it, it's been years. It's been about 5 years that I've been wanting this, but it's just really what I want, and it's what I need as I'm being who I am. I want to die being who I am. The courts finally agreed to schedule her execution and set a date for August 19th, 2002. Criminal court judge Mary Beth Lebowitz granted the request. On July 8, 2002, however, Christa changed her mind and defense lawyers filed a motion to allow the appeal process to continue. The motion was initially denied, but on August 2, 2002, there was a 3-judge state appeals court panel and they ruled for the execution not to be carried out. It is now the year of 2022 and Christa has no more petitions left under the appeals procedures in the state of Tennessee, but she has yet to receive an execution date. In March of 2012, Christa was caught making escape plans with Correctional Officer Justin Heflin and a man on the outside, Donald Kohut. Donald was visiting Christa in prison and agreed to assist her. Their plans were interrupted because during that time, the Tennessee Department of Corrections, the New Jersey State Police, and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations were conducting a joint investigation. Donald was driving 1,800 miles by car from New Jersey to Nashville, Tennessee to visit Christa. Donald was arrested and charged with bribery, official misconduct, and conspiracy to commit escape. He was eventually sentenced to 7 years in prison. Officer Heflin served no prison time but was fired from his job. In 2020, Tennessee Attorney General requested that an execution date be set for Christa. During this time, the pandemic was affecting our country, and the state agreed with Christa's attorneys and allowed extensions. The last motion for an execution date to be postponed was on June 7, 2021. There has yet to be a decision on whether or not her sentence will be commuted. If she is executed, she will be the first woman in the state of Tennessee to be executed in about 200 years. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe.